Hey, what is going on, everybody? Chris Patrick here, and I just wanted to share some amazing notes from chapter 3 of John Bevere's book, The Bait of Satan. So far, it's been a phenomenal book. I'm going to get right into this thing because it's going to be up on my wall. So, in Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 and 20, it says, Joseph said to them, "But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." I'm going to share a story with you guys. I'm going to paraphrase it, so if you ever want to go take a look in towards the end of Genesis, okay? Around chapter 50, talks a lot about Joseph's life. So Joseph had 10 older brothers. He was the baby of them. So he was the 11th son. His daddy favored him. Absolutely loved him to pieces. So much so, he didn't have to do much of the hard work that all his older brothers had to do. And then beyond that, he also was given a robe of many colors. So it really set him apart from his other brothers, which made them super jealous and just really, really kind of spiteful, if anything. And one day, they were all out working in the field except Joseph, right? Because he's kind of hanging back with his daddy-o. And Dad says, "Hey, son, go check on your brothers, see how they're coming along." And so they see him approaching in the distance, and they start to plot against him. They say, "Hey, let's kill him. Here comes that dreamer. Let's just kill him. Be done with it." And one brother, he's a little more greedy. He started thinking, "Well, what good would that do? Yeah, we'd be rid of him, but we're not going to get anything out of it. Let's sell him. Let's sell him into slavery. See that slave trade master up there? Let's just sell him to him. He'll be stripped of his inheritance. He'll never bother us again." When someone is sold into another country, it's for life. There's no way of getting out of it. Whoever you marry, that person's going to be a slave. Your children will be slaves. Like, that's just it. He'll never bother us again. Let's do it. And so they did. And they sold him to a guy named Potiphar, who Joseph would go on to serve faithfully and loyally for 10 long years. And during that time, something would transpire. Potiphar's wife would develop sexual feelings towards Joseph. Joseph never impulsively acted upon it. He would actually take it to another level and try to push it away and run. And one day she had had enough. She wanted him so bad that she grabbed a hold of his robe and he took off, leaving that robe in her grasp. Well, because she was shamed, she lifted it up and cried rape, cried wolf, right? Well, because back then they don't have the technology and the tools and the resources we have now, there was no way to vindicate him, to clear his name. So he was thrown in jail. And back then, a prison was literally a hole in the ground, devoid of warmth or cold, and given a little piece of bread and a little bit of water, just enough to keep you alive, but also make you miserable. Okay? That was it. He was stuck down there with two dudes. And I believe it was anywhere from 2 to 4 years, right? And after the first two, he had interpreted both their dreams. One of them would go on to be released and executed. The other guy would be released and he'd get to move up and continue working and everything. So both of those things come to pass, and 2 more years go on. 2 years of being alone in that jail cell, completely alone, and he must have lost all hope. But God was working anyhow. Pharaoh ended up having a dream. No one could interpret it. His wise men, his Egyptians, everybody, even his magicians didn't understand. Well, remember the guy who was set free? He remembered, "Hey, there's this dude named Joseph in jail, right? Remember, Pharaoh? That guy who you convicted to death? Well, he told that guy he would die before you even said the word. And me, you know how I got released? Well, he told me I was going to be released before you ever set me free. So if you want answers to your dream, I think Joseph's your guy." And so Joseph gets brought before Pharaoh, and he interprets Pharaoh's dream, and he says, "Pharaoh, your dream simply means that there's going to be a famine in the land, and this is how you can prevent it from happening, or not necessarily prevent it from happening, but to prepare for what's coming." And because he gave that wise counsel and was diligent in his gifting that God had blessed him with, he was promoted to second in command. Just like that. Promoted from prisoner on the verge of death to second in command. So get this, guys. While he's second in command, his brothers, remember the 10 that stripped him of everything? Took his name, took his inheritance, took his manlyhood, everything. Those same dudes, those same older brothers, come in begging, pleading for food. He had every right to have them killed on the spot. And you know what he does? He forgave them. Don't believe me? Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 and 20. Joseph said to them, "But as for you, you meant evil against me." I imagine he paused, just to kind of let that sink in, for a moment, maybe. You meant evil against me. But God meant it for good. You see, guys, he had very limited freedom in his life, but he still had the right to choose his response to all that had happened to him. Many people have been serving the Lord fervently and have come into difficult life situations because of being mistreated by either wicked or carnal Christians. The truth is that they have been treated unjustly, but to become offended would only fulfill the enemy's purpose of getting them out of the will of God. If you stay free from offense, you will stay in God's will. If you become offended, you will be taken captive by the enemy to fulfill his own purposes and will. Take your pick. It is much more beneficial to stay free from offense. We must remember that nothing can come against us without the Lord's knowledge of it before it ever even happens. If the devil could destroy us at will, he would have wiped us out a long time ago. Because he hates man with a passion. Always keep this next exhortation before you. It's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. If you have a prayer wall, I would put this up on it, honestly. It says, "No temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it." Notice it says the way of escape, not a way of escape. God has already seen every adverse circumstance we'll ever encounter, no matter how great or small. And he has the way planned for escaping it. And even more thrilling, often the thing that looks like an abortion of God's plan actually ends up being the road to its fulfillment if we stay in obedience and free from offense. So remember, stay submitted to God by not being offended. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. James chapter 4 verse 7. We resist the devil by not becoming offended. The dream or vision will probably happen differently from how you think it will, but his word and his promises will not fail. We only risk aborting them by our disobedience. And that, my friends, is the end of the notes that I took on that chapter. I hope it helps you guys. I love you all. Go out there and have an amazing day.